Lesson 3, Chapter 1, Computer Culture for Grade 4. The duration of this lesson is for one period. The objectives are to learn students what is touch screen and why we use it and where we use it, to introduce them to the CPU hardware, the motherboard, and the RAM, the random access memory. Of course, no need for software, any software for this session. At the end of this lesson, students are asked to answer several questions concerning what is a touch screen, is it considered as input or output, the CPU is compared to what is a motherboard, the RAM, all things related to the RAM, like if we open, we save, and of course other things related to this lesson. Many examples should be given in this lesson. First, you start by a quick revision concerning the three components of the hardware, which is the input device, the output device, and the computer or system unit. And then you start by asking if the microphone is an input device or output device. Sure, the answer will be as an input device. And then you ask them, is it possible to have the microphone as output device? Sure, the answer will be no. So a device usually cannot be at the same time input and output device. That's what you should explain to students. But concerning the touch screen, it is at the same time input device and output device, since, as you know, the information is displayed on the screen. At the same time, you can use your finger in order to press instead of the mouse, and then this hardware is considered as input and output at the same time. So if we start by the touch screen, after several questions, as we said before, you can start asking students what is a touch screen. You should expect few answers. Give me some example of touch screens, like the iPad, the computer touch screen, like the watch. So we have lots of examples, and then you pass to another question, which is, where do I found touch screen? So other than the house, of course. So students must answer questions like at the pharmacy, a restaurant, the ATM machine. So there is lots of examples where touch screens are used. So after those questions, you ask, you start by the first sheet, where you ask questions regarding the touch screen. Does the bank open on holidays? Of course not. What do you do to withdraw money from the bank on holidays? Of course, students in grade 4 must tell you that they go to the ATM machine with their parents. Another question, does the waiter use a keyboard to save an order? Of course not. He will join you at the table with an iPad, and all you ask as food will be directly made on the iPad. To work on an iPad, you use your fingers or a keyboard. Of course, here the answer is your fingers. And then from those examples or questions, I guess students now have an idea that a touch screen is not only for iPads or their watch. Touch screens are used everywhere in the business, most of the businesses, to simplify the task for employees while working. And then you set the definition by telling that the touch screen is used to withdraw money, to register an order, to register a purchase in a clothing stores. And then the touch screen is considered as an input device, as we said before, and an output device. So the advantages: it's faster, and we made fewer errors since all is displayed as items and as choices and menus. So by the end of this sheet, students are asked to fill 3 examples of places where a touch screen is used. We'll pass to the second sheet, where we'll define a CPU. The CPU is a central process unit. They should memorize the abbreviation of the CPU. It's compared to a human's brain. It's the intelligent part of the computer. It's not the hard disk, it's not the motherboard, it's not the mouse. You should tell them that the intelligent part of the hard disk of the computer is the CPU, and you will continue by telling them that the CPU will execute all types or kinds of instructions like calculating, drawing, listening to music, playing videos, etc. The CPU is attached to the motherboard. The CPU is attached to the motherboard, and it is cooled by a fan, since it will execute a huge number of information, so it will be very hot. And if you consider that your students are ready to understand and to accept the measurement unit of the speed of a CPU, which is gigahertz, so go ahead and give it to your students, since they know that data are stored and are measured in megabyte and in gigabyte, so speed of the CPU will be in gigahertz. The motherboard will be the next hardware element to explain to your students, and all they need to memorize from this is that it is the largest component on the system unit and its role is to connect all the elements of the computer, like the keyboard, the mouse, the screen, etc. And the third thing that they should know is that the motherboard is designed by a human being and manufactured by a robot, since it is very complicated to be made and manufactured by a human being. Here you can show them a picture or a real motherboard in case you have one and you are in the computer lab. And to terminate this lesson, you will explain them what is a RAM, the random access memory, and here you can go back a little bit and remind them about the hard disk and the RAM, the commands save and open, and this relation between those commands with the hard disk and the RAM. And after that, you will explain that on a computer you have 2 types of memory. You have the RAM and the hard disk, which is shown here, and the RAM will be emptied once you shut down the computer, and the storage memory will keep the information once you save those information. So as you see. The two sheets are very attractive, full of information that students usually will use frequently in their computer processes. That's why you can find the interactive sheet related to this lesson on Dropbox. So feel free to ask us about it in order to send it to you. From your side, you can attach it to your students. Your students will fill it and send it back in order to make sure that students memorize important information concerning the touch screen, concerning the CPU, the motherboard, and the RAM.